Stress. It's a word we throw around all the time, right? It's this universal feeling that connects all of us. But have you ever stopped to think about what's actually going on inside your brain and your body when you feel it? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to pull back the curtain and decode the whole system, from that very first spark of alarm all the way to the long-term effects. All right, so let's get right into it. We all say it. I'm so stressed out. But what does that even mean? What is stress, really? Is it just a feeling in your head? Is it a cocktail of chemicals flooding your body? Is it this big, bad enemy that we're supposed to defeat? Or, and this is the interesting part, could it actually be a tool? That's the real question we're tackling here. Can you actually learn to use stress to your advantage? Okay, first things first, we gotta get one thing straight. Not all stress is the same. It's not this one big, scary thing. To really get a handle on it, you have to know that it basically comes in two totally different flavors. So think of stress like a coin with two very different sides. On one side, you've got eustress. Honestly, this is the good stuff. It's that fire under you that gets you to finish a project on time. It's that jolt of energy that makes you laser focused before a big presentation. But then you flip the coin and you get its evil twin, distress. And this is the one we all know and hate. It's that crushing, overwhelming feeling that dials up your anxiety, makes it impossible to think straight, and just pushes you right into overload. And this idea actually has a name, the Yerkes-Dodson law. It basically gives us a map to find the sweet spot. So picture this, you're climbing a hill. A little bit of that good stress, eustress, is like the wind at your back, pushing you up, helping you get to the very top. That's your peak performance. But if you get too much stress, whoa, you go right over the edge and start tumbling down the other side. Your performance just completely tanks. So you see, the goal isn't to get rid of stress entirely. The real key is learning how to ride that perfect wave right at the top of the hill. So where does it all start? In that split second when you sense something might be wrong? Well, it all kicks off in your brain's own built-in, super fast alarm system. Yeah, buried deep inside your brain is this tiny little almond-shaped thing called the amygdala. And you can just think of it as your body's personal smoke detector. But it's a really, really sensitive one. Its only job is to scan for danger, 24/7. And get this, it's so fast, it goes off before your conscious brain even knows what's happening. It's pure, instant reaction. And the second that alarm starts blaring, it sets off this lightning-fast chain reaction. Boom, step one, the amygdala spots a threat. Boom, step two, it screams at your nervous system to flood your body with adrenaline. And boom, step three, you are officially in survival mode. This is exactly where that famous fight, flight, or freeze response comes from. It's not something you think about. It's a deep, ancient instinct designed for one thing and one thing only, to keep you alive. Now, that jolt of adrenaline is fantastic if you're, running from a saber-toothed tiger. But what about the stressors we face today, the ones that don't just go away? This is where we shift gears from that immediate shock to something much more draining, the slow, grinding machinery of chronic stress. And this, right here, is the million-dollar question for most of us living in the modern world. What happens when that alarm bell just never turns off? When the threat isn't a tiger hiding in the bushes, but an email inbox that never, ever stops, or constant money worries, or a stressful relationship? Well, when stress sticks around for the long haul, a different system takes the wheel. It's a bit slower, more methodical. It's called the HPA axis. If the first response was a sprint, think of the HPA axis as your body's marathon crew. It's designed for endurance, and its number one tool, a hormone I guarantee you've heard of, cortisol. Now, cortisol is a classic double-edged sword. In small doses, for short periods, it's super helpful. But when your body is just marinating in it day after day, it's incredibly destructive. I mean, chronic cortisol can literally shrink the part of your brain that makes new memories. It trashes your immune system, messes with your mood, and eventually just runs your battery down to zero. That feeling of complete and utter exhaustion, yep, that's what we call burnout. And burnout isn't just some trendy buzzword, It's a real biological state. It's actually the final stage of something called the general adaptation syndrome. The easiest way to think about it is like a three-act play. Act one is alarm. That's the initial shock. Then comes Act two, resistance. Your body is paddling like crazy, trying to cope, trying to stay afloat. But if that stress just keeps coming, you hit Act three, exhaustion. And that's it. The tank is empty. Your resources are totally depleted. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the biology, the nuts and bolts, but now we get to what is, for my money, the most powerful part of this whole story. Because here's the secret. This whole biological avalanche, it doesn't just happen to you. You are an active player in this. And that brings us to the incredible power of your own mind, because it really is all about how you see things. And this idea is a total game changer. Think about it. A tough exam, being stuck in traffic, getting a harsh comment from your boss, none of those things are automatically stressful. The stress doesn't live in the event itself. No, the stress is born in the moment you interpret that event. Your perception, your thought about it, that's the spark that lights the biological fuse. There's actually a formal name for this, Lazarus's appraisal theory. And it's really simple. It just says that your brain sizes up every potential problem in 2 quick steps. So let's say you have to give a speech. The very first question your brain asks is the primary appraisal. Is this a threat? And if your brain says, yep, definitely a threat, then it immediately asks the second question, the secondary appraisal. All right, can I cope with this? But let's pause and just focus on that first question, because it is everything. That single initial decision point dictates the entire path forward. Your body's whole stress response is basically just waiting for the answer to that one question. Seriously, this is the fork in the road. Is this a threat to me, to my ego, to my plans? Your answer, right there in that moment, will either pull the trigger and unleash that whole biological storm we talked about, or it won't. It's that simple. And you can see those 2 paths right here. If your brain looks at a situation and says, nope, not a threat, your body just stays cool, calm, and collected. But if the answer is yes, well, that's the green light. The amygdala and the HPA axis get the signal to go into overdrive. Your thoughts are literally at the control panel, pulling the levers on your own stress machine. So that brings up a really important final question, doesn't it? If how we think about things is so critical, then why are some of us just wired to see threats everywhere, while others seem to let things roll off their back? This is where we put all the pieces together and see why stress is so personal. A huge piece of the answer is in this amazing field called epigenetics. Now stick with me, it's not as complicated as it sounds. The basic idea is that your life experiences, where you grew up, what you went through, can actually change how your genes work. The best way to picture it is to think of your DNA as having a bunch of dimmer switches. Your experiences can't rewrite the genes themselves, but they can turn those dimmer switches up or down, making certain genes more or less active. So what does this have to do with stress? Well, really stressful experiences, especially things that happen when we're young, what researchers call adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, can literally reach in and fiddle with those genetic dimmer switches. They can turn up the dial on the genes that control your stress response system, your HPA axis. This basically leaves your threat detection system on high alert permanently. In a very real way, your past gets written into your biology. And all of this leads to this really powerful concept called the diathesis stress model. And the easiest way to get it is to think of a loaded gun. The diathesis is the gun itself. That's your personal predisposition, your unique mix of genetics and life history. But, a loaded gun doesn't just go off by itself. It needs a trigger. And that trigger is a major stressful event in your life. So you can basically boil it all down to a simple formula. Your predisposition, that's your genes plus your life story, plus a major stressor equals your unique outcome. And this is why 2 people can go through the exact same challenging event, and one might be fine while the other is completely overwhelmed. It's because they were never starting from the same place to begin with. So what's the bottom line here? It's that stress isn't just some villain we have to fight. It's way more complicated. It's like a dance between your biology, your personal history, and most importantly, your own perception. It's not just something that happens to you. You're part of the system. And that leaves us with one final, really empowering question. Now that you have the user's guide, now that you know how it all works, how are you going to choose to see your next challenge?